Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Mayor and City Council Workshop Wednesday, December 6, 2023. If you would now please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clara, please note that we have Councilmember Cheney absent.
Sir, can you speak up? Can't hear.
Sure. Clara, if you could just please note that we have Councilmember Cheney absent today. So before we get into it, if we could get a motion and a vote to excuse Councilmember Cheney from council meetings for probably the next 2 months as she deals with family issues.
Yes.
I'm going to need a motion on that.
I move that we excuse Councilmember Cheney for the next 2 meetings due to the health of her husband.
I'll second it, but I didn't hear what was the reason for it.
So she's dealing with some family health issues right now.
Okay.
So she wasn't able to attend tonight. And she's probably not going to be able to attend some of the other meetings as her family kind of recuperates.
Gotcha.
So if I could get a second on that.
I did
You
second it.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Review of the minutes. Review of the minutes of the November 8th, 2023, November 13th, 2023 regular meetings and the corrected closed session minutes from November 8th, 2023. Is there any additional comments, questions, or concerns on those?
No.
Hearing none and proceeding forward to the public hearing on ordinance 09-2023 backyard chickens. I'm now opening the public hearing on this matter, and it will stay open until right before the adjournment of this council meeting. If anybody would like to come up now to talk on backyard chickens, feel free to. You'll be able to also throughout the course of the meeting come up to talk about backyard chickens. With nobody coming up, I'm proceeding down. We have a certificate of recognition for Parks and Recreation Director Lorena Becker. Lorena, if you could come up with me, please. Or, sorry, one second. Let me read this real quick. My apologies. This certificate is proudly presented to Lorena. Sorry, your last name always gets me. Vicaire. In recognition and the sincere appreciation of your exceptional dedication and service to the city of Taneytown. Your tireless efforts in coordinating and securing grant opportunities have been pivotal in enhancing the scope and quality of our city's parks and recreation programs. Under your leadership, there has been a notable increase in recreational activities and significant improvement to our park facilities, contributing substantially to the enrichment of our community's quality of life. The vision and path you have set forth for Taneytown Parks and Recreation are commendable and have positioned our programs to be regarded as exemplary models within our county. Your innovative ideas and commitment to community engagement have not only enriched the present, but have laid a solid foundation for a prosperous and vibrant future. As mayor and on behalf of the grateful residents of Taneytown, I look forward to witnessing the continued fruition on your ongoing projects and eagerly anticipate the new and exciting initiatives you will bring forward for the betterment of our community. Your contribution is invaluable, and for this, we extend our deepest gratitude and recognition. Thank you for your unwavering commitment and exceptional service. Any council members that would like to come up?
My pleasure. Thank you, Judy and Kelly, for everything you do.
Once again, Lorena, I do want to extend our thanks from the city. You've done a tremendous job here. Thank you. Going forward, we have the council member statement regarding conflicts of interest on the agenda items. Do we have any conflicts of interest?
No.
No.
Hearing none, proceeding forward. Public comment pertaining to non-agenda items. If you would like to comment or make a comment pertaining to an item that is not currently on this agenda, feel free to come on up and say what you will.
Good evening. My name is Ava Miller. I live on 107 Trevanion Road in Taneytown. And the only thing that I would bring up, we have a lot of disabled veterans as well as disabled members and ill members in our community. And it would be nice to open the meetings that have public comments to virtual folks that can't come in person, as we do for the members that aren't here in person. So that's all I have. Something to think about, to open it up to those that can't attend.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's actually a very good idea. I'm surprised we hadn't thought of that before, frankly.
Now, we'll definitely look into it after, talk with Dan, see if there's anything we could facilitate as far as people attending virtually and whatnot. Next up, we have resolution, or sorry, does anybody else have any public comment? Currently. Hearing none, I am going on down to resolution, ordinances, and agreements. We have approval of CDM Smith 2024 rate schedule. Jim, would you like to lead off on that?
Sure. Generally, it represents an overall 3% increase for CDM Smith's rates. We are, much of our work is done by Alex Criswell. He is at the Engineer 1 level, just so you have an idea where kind of the grunt work goes in at that level. Brian Lubenow is our principal contact, and he's at a much higher level. He's at the principal senior manager level at this point. So we're trying to utilize Alex as much as we can for the nuts and bolts of things. Try to keep the costs down that way.
Comments, questions, or concerns from council?
No, I looked at the rates earlier.
Hearing none, I am proceeding forward to ordinance 09-2023 backyard chickens. We also have the public hearing going on tonight for that. If anybody, do we have questions, comments, or concerns from council?
No, it appears as though we have included all of the recommendations from the planning commission meeting from a couple weeks ago. So I think the planning commission at this point is satisfied.
Any additional comments, questions, or concerns from council? Hearing none, I am proceeding down the list. Amendment to officers, employees section of the city code, ordinance 10-2023. Jim, did you want to start off on it?
Well, let me scroll back up a little bit. All right, so this would basically shift how the city attorney is get it in front of me here. Right. How the city attorney would be removed, treating him, he or she, more like a department head. So they would be removed by by vote of city council. So recognizing the intent of this, I just want to point out that this would create an inconsistency with the charter and how the charter says that, let's see, it doesn't state that the city attorney is removed by council vote. So I think that to do this properly, we should also be looking at a change to the charter that we would do concurrently with this. And the charter also states that you shouldn't pass ordinances that are in conflict with the charter. So I think it kind of needs to be a package deal to move forward properly.
Yeah, because the charter is currently silent on the city attorney completely.
Right.
What I would like to see, and I'm trying to call it up on my screen, I'm not having any luck right now, but I would like to see the language inserted to match what is in the charter regarding the clerk and the treasurer. Then that way it's evened up across the board so that it all reads the same way. The language in charter regarding the clerk and the treasurer both say, shall serve at the pleasure of mayor and council. And I think that would be a sufficient change.
That should do it.
I agree on that.
You good with that?
And
I think you're right. I think we do need to go back and address charter or to include city attorney in the charter because it's not there. And it should have just essentially the identical paragraph.
I'm not sure that it's not there as much as being just absent or in conflict.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, right, it's not in conflict, it's just it's not there.
And, right, so the charter doesn't specifically define the attorney as a department head, but essentially, he represents he or she is our legal department. So the charter does say that department heads, unless otherwise stated in the charter, serve at the pleasure of the mayor. So I guess you could argue back and forth as to whether the city attorney is considered a department head or exactly
Well,
what
it-
that
it's-
person is considered, but
He's-
if we're going to pass an ordinance to clarify, I think we should follow suit with the charter, just so they're in sync.
So are you,
Well,
How is it
I'm
any
sorry.
more out of sync than it is as it was standing? Like, if there wasn't anything in the charter to begin with,
So even if this passed, it wouldn't accomplish what you're thinking it would accomplish.
You can't be in
that's not what I
conflict with nothing.
yeah, I mean, it's not in conflict with the charter because there's nothing in the
There's
charter,
nothing
so.
in the charter.
We can go back and there's no reason not to go ahead and approve this in code because it fixes code to match what happens with those other positions in charter. But there's no reason not to go back at a later point if that's what we want to do. And it probably is what we should do, is then go back and insert city attorney language in charter.
certainly the delay has cost the city considerable, so we need to act on it, I think.
So again, the problem is that, Jim, in my mind, it still would be in conflict even if this was passed. And per enumeration of council powers, they cannot pass an ordinance that would be in conflict with the charter.
Well, it wouldn't be in conflict because there's nothing to conflict with.
So the idea is, and your stated intent of this ordinance was to bring the city attorney in line with department heads, make him a department head. So per charter, department heads serve at the pleasure of the mayor.
Unless otherwise indicated, yeah.
In the
All
charter,
right,
in the charter. You see what I'm saying?
Now I see where you were
That's
headed with
what I'm
that.
saying. So this,
I got you. Do you want to go back and,
The charter says, "The mayor, with approval of council, shall appoint all committees and the heads of all departments and agencies of the city government as established by this charter or by ordinance. All department and agency heads shall serve at the pleasure of the mayor unless otherwise provided in this charter."
right. So then
So
what we would want to do then is
that's-
go back to
Right.
Article 6, administration, and add a paragraph for the attorney to match the paragraphs for the clerk and treasurer.
before you could do the ordinance, though, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
because the idea is you cannot pass an ordinance that is contrary to the charter. Per the enumeration of powers of council, that is what it says.
I mean, at this point in time, it's not like it's going to.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
The point for now is moot. So if we want to propose that, so it'll be essentially be, we'll have to propose that for next month.
Right, we can do a charter resolution to incorporate that, as we did with, basically add attorney in with the clerk and treasurer.
Be Paragraph C or whatever.
Okay.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council?
I still don't
I'll
say
have to
that,
see what you come up with.
I still don't say that it's necessary. I don't think there's any conflict now. Even after you read that, I don't see a conflict.
Okay.
Yes, I would agree that the conflict is there because the charter does say unless otherwise specified in this charter. And if it's not otherwise specified in the charter, then
Okay, that's why I said I
Okay.
have to see what you come up with.
right. So I think that we should table this at this point in time. And then, so what would then happen is we would be looking at a charter amendment to add paragraph C for the attorney, and then a code a change to code that would include the same language as is in code for the clerk and.
Right, I think
for
adding
powers
that
and
language in the
duties.
charter then makes the ordinance
Right,
work
then
as well.
then you need to say, because the code says refers back to the charter. So if we put the language in the charter, we can just simply change the code to match. We just get all three on the same level field is what we're after.
Yep. Additional comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Water allocation for December. Questions, comments, or concerns from council?
I have one question. I know that there were a lot of things before the planning commission that add up to an awful lot more gallons per day than we currently have allocated or have the ability to allocate. What changes that allocation for us?
Preliminary plan approval. When a project reaches preliminary plan approval, it'll go on that line on the
Right.
resolution.
But what I'm asking is, what would allow us to increase our allocations?
Okay.
Is that was
okay.
my
So to
question.
change the top number.
Change the
Okay,
top number
Okay.
so that we can make more changes to the middle number.
We're going to need to acquire recharge acreage so
Okay.
that we can apply to increase our allocation or appropriation permits for ideally well 17, because we know that can pump a lot more than we're using it for right now.
Right.
So,
Now,
but
where
we
is well
can't,
17?
it's by the Baptist Church on Saw's Mill Road.
Okay. So, so in order to increase our allocations for upcoming future, well, we need to acquire more recharge area, and it has to be recharge area, is it, that is
In the
contiguous to
aquifer.
that?
Within the aquifer. It doesn't need to be contiguous to the well site, but it needs to be in the aquifer that the well draws from. So it's a pretty large area, but there obviously will be a cost associated with that. So we'll need to revisit our water benefit assessment fees when we have all this lined up so that we can recover our costs as each new house comes online down the road. So we're basically going to, forward fund the ability to pump more water to provide the capacity for the growth. And then when the growth occurs, we get paid back through our benefit assessments.
Right.
So we'll need to increase our water benefit assessment to offset, to pay us back for that, whatever the investment in recharge ends up being.
So we have, I know that it looks like Garnet Ridge is probably the first thing in the pipeline, and between that
And there's,
the
right,
additions
there's enough
of
for Garnet Ridge, there's
Garnet
enough
Ridge and the
for
additional work at
Evapco.
the add-on offices
Right.
at Evapco, but then
Right.
that pretty much
That's
tops us out.
gonna get us pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, all right. That's what I wanted to, I wanted to make sure where we were and what we need to do, so that we need to be looking ahead. Now, is that a planning commission function to look ahead for that, or is that,
It's something just for you, for the commission to be aware of as we are reviewing the projects. And that's going to be part of the zoning administrator's review, is also, that we'll need to certify that we have adequate capacity, both in water and sewer, for whatever we're going to grant preliminary plan approval for.
all right.
Any additional comments, questions, or concerns from council? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Resolution 2023-20, fee schedule for 2024. Questions, comments, or concerns from council?
I have a concern on the fee schedule, and this arises out of the most recent planning commission meeting, but it goes, for me, it goes all the way back to when we were trying to get our project approved to do George's on York. If, no matter what the size of the plan is, if you are required to do a site plan and not get a waiver from the planning commission, then that automatically triggers a $5,000 deposit to the city and a $2,500 fee. For somebody doing a relatively small project like mine, that was a big hit. You add the engineering cost, there's $10,000 that disappears out of your wallet very quickly. And we just had someone come before the planning commission kind of in that same boat. And so my question is, can we create an additional fee somewhere, a structure in the middle there somewhere for a small project, so that they don't have to outlay $5,000 to the escrow fund and $2,500 in a check to the city?
Jim, what's your take on it?
I certainly think we could look at a simplified site plan process and a smaller fee that would tie into that. So right now, there's a lot that the site plan chapter casts a very broad net. any, change from one commercial use to another if the new use is more has greater intensity than the previous use, you have to do a site plan. Building a non-residential structure triggers a site plan. So, we've had some things like the snowball stand triggered a site plan. Now, where there's not a lot of construction involved, the planning commission has the opportunity to waive the site plan requirements and basically can approve something with a very basic drawing that shows essentially what they would need to get a zoning certificate. But we could actually, rather than it being like all or nothing, we could come up with a simplified site plan where if they don't have to do, if there's not enough disturbance or new impervious to warrant stormwater management or an erosion and sediment control plan, we could have a more simple process for them to go through that would probably be less expensive for the applicant, less review time, because the same number of agencies aren't going to have to review it. And the fee for that could be lower, I would think.
Now, while that might seem like a good idea and certainly be business friendly, I think we need to proceed with caution. I'd really like to see something worked out in detail before we just arbitrarily agreed to it.
Sure.
And the other comment that I had on the fees is, I see the fees, but I don't know what's changed. Is there things that have changed or not changed? I mean, I don't remember talking about this. Did I miss something?
Right. I think we adopted this last year for the calendar year, but no proposed changes.
No proposed change.
Right. It's just re-upping it
I got it.
as an annual process.
Jim, could you kind of figure out what that simplified site plan would look like to?
We can come up with some bullet points on, how it would differ from the full-blown site plan. And it would ultimately end up being, I think, a revision to the site plan chapter. So rather than, just having.
Well, I just envision if we have something in between, that everybody's going to qualify for the in-between, and not many people will qualify for the full plan.
And, right, and it would need to be limited to those smaller projects. Anything that's going to disturb more than 5,000 square feet really is going to need a grading permit and an erosion and sediment control plan. It's, likely going to also have a stormwater management plan. If it's going to have all those things, you need to go through the whole process. If it's, somebody wants to put up a storage building behind their office or behind their existing building, and it's going to be, 20 by 30, 600 square foot building, do they need to go through all the engineering and so on for that? So,
I don't argue that it's not needed. I just say we need to proceed with caution to make sure
Yes.
we think it out properly.
yes, right, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, yeah.
Additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, proceeding forward. City manager report.
Let's see, our police cars are now at the upfitter, so things are finally moving along there after waiting many, many, many months for those vehicles to be delivered. We did have to order new, we don't call them cages anymore, partitions that separate the officer from somebody in the back. The new vehicle, the ones we had hoped to install that we took out of the old vehicles don't fit the new ones. We thought they could be modified slightly to fit, but the upfitter said no. Public Works went to the upfitter where our small dump truck is Friday, and they requested a couple small changes to the spec on that, but everything looked good so far, so we should be seeing delivery of that by the end of the year. So let's see, that's it on vehicles, on equipment, on charter and code revisions. Obviously, we've got the hearing for the chicken ordinance tonight. Kind of surprised nobody's commenting on it so far. Let's see.
We're all done.
Let's see. And of course, the ordinance pertaining to the attorney, so we'll be working on the charter amendment to go along with that next time. Just a quick point on the chicken ordinance, the planning commission did make a motion of support, favorable recommendation on it with a couple changes that were in there that, about the run being enclosed, and just a typo to include the word, but not limited to producing eggs, where it says no commercial activities. So that's about it on charter and code. Roberts Mill Road and Broad Street is coming along. The concrete subcontractor's been out there. The driveway aprons on Roberts Mill Road are nearly finished as far as the concrete portion. And curb and gutter is just about all the way in as well. I think they're down to getting close to THS Park at this point. I didn't get out there today to take a look, but Monday they were down to, I guess, Carroll Heights, and they were framing up the property on the corner at Carroll Heights and Roberts Mill Road. So we're getting close to the end on the concrete work. The blacktop, the paving subcontractor is supposed to be back in town next week, and the intent is for them to stay in town until all the blacktop is finished. So the top coat for the road, all the driveway repairs where we had to tear up people's driveways to do the new aprons and get the grades to match. So we're in the home stretch there on that project. Let's see. Stormwater, the Riffles Lane storm drain, just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for until we have a new law firm on board to work with us on the easement plats we need to get from those property owners. We do have the plats, we just need the deeds of easement to be drawn up. And while we can cut and paste something together, we really want an attorney to review it before we take it to anybody. And that's about it for the normal report. Just a couple other updates that have come in the last couple days. We heard back from State Highway from their latest study of the intersection here at 140 and 194. And as kind of expected, the study didn't show that we meet the volume per cycle for the left turn phasing to have an arrow. However, the consultant that did the study indicated that a turn arrow for westbound traffic could reduce the queuing distance. So it's something that we can look into a little bit farther. So State Highway is taking it from the district office up to the Office of Traffic and Safety. So things are kind of moving along still with that. So we don't meet the number of
Right.
vehicles
And that was a
going
discussion
through.
that we had with
Right.
Mr. Radcliffe, and we were aware that that was going to
Right.
be an answer, but I am encouraged
Yes.
by the
So,
report that
right,
says
so
a left
they,
turn arrow on the westbound side would be beneficial.
Right, so it would just be for westbound traffic at this point. And without increasing the turn lanes, that's trying to introduce an arrow to other travel directions would have more of a detrimental impact on the overall performance. But the westbound turn arrow looks like it's feasible, that it won't really adversely affect the other flows of traffic. So that's kind of getting to the next step. Let's see. I did call to your attention this afternoon that with the police department being as shortly staffed as they have been, we have a few officers that haven't been able to use all of their leave, which if most of us didn't use our leave, too bad, our own fault. But in a situation where you're told you can't take off because, somebody has to work, it's a little different scenario. So hopefully the chief will manage to get that scheduled, and still provide coverage. But obviously, we want to maintain our 24/7 coverage, and we need people here to do it. So hopefully, we'll know in the next several days if we can do that or not. Worst case, I'll be before you Monday asking for either a buyout or extension, but hopefully
I
we'll,
guess, can we just buy out?
hopefully we won't,
We also don't want
need
to
to do
burn
that.
out our officers either,
Right.
so.
Right. Okay. And the last thing, I know council's aware of this, but just for, I guess, the general public, we did acquire a piece of property to relocate our public works operation. So the new property's off of Allendale Lane. So it's in the industrial area, so we can, ultimately get the public works area out of the park and, in a site that's not quite so visible, and also give them the space that they really need. And we'll be able to hopefully last for, quite a few years if we build this right. So some good news there. We've been waiting for this settlement for quite a few months, so finally came in. We ended up at 178,000, so, under what we were authorized to spend for it, so that worked out well for us. And I think that's about it, unless anybody has questions for me.
Jim, I do have one question. With the adoptions of the ordinances and the resolutions, how are we dealing with the issue of not having a city attorney to sign off on?
Yep. At this point, they're just going to accumulate basically until we have somebody on board who can review them. So,
And just to touch on that, during the new business, I intend to ask, I do need just a consensus that council is going to consider a nomination. I've been told that council potentially would not consider any nomination that are brought forward. And if that's the case, I'm not going to waste city staff time, my time, and an attorney's time. So I need to know that council will at least entertain a nomination. But we'll get to that in new business. Anything else, Jim?
no,
Any additional comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward to department reports. Chief, did you want to talk today?
Excuse me,
yeah,
can you
if you
come up to
don't-
the microphone so they can't hear you on the broadcast otherwise?
My apologies. I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, and good evening. Just a couple things. I'd take advantage of having access to the public here. Saturday, the police department will be doing a fundraiser, Pack the Police Car. It's something that's been done annually in the last few years. And basically, it's a food drive. And so we'll be there at Kenny's from 10 until 2. So I'd appreciate if anybody would come out and consider that. This past week, I met with the legit representative to the police departments, and I have reviewed our policy with him. He's taking it in review now, so that's something that we're presently working on. And just one other sort of public announcement, if I may. Lots of packages are showing up on people's steps now, particularly for the holidays. So just be mindful of your own packages and your neighbors to make sure that we keep an eye on those and make sure that everybody has a nice holiday, because there are some people that take advantage of those situations. That's all I have this evening.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions, concerns on the department reports?
Mr. Mayor, just, this is not included in his report, but I just want to point out, if any of you want to take a look at our website, and our IT specialist, Dan Dennis, has worked out a way to basically allow folks to click on the agenda for our past meetings and go right to that point in the YouTube video. So if you want to see the discussion on a particular item, you don't have to kind of try to scroll through and find the right spot in the meeting. So it's a really cool little feature that he's added. So it'll save folks some time and effort when they want to go back and see when we talked about chickens, for example. They can just now click on the chicken ordinance on the agenda, and it'll take them right to that point in the meeting on the YouTube video. So I thought a very nice feature that he added there. Just wanted to call it to your attention.
That's pretty cool.
Sounds good, thank you. Additional comments, questions, concerns for the department reports? Jim, did you have anything else to touch on regarding those?
Nope.
Sounds good. Hearing none, proceeding to new business. Monthly financial report, questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Accounts payables, questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Approval of special event permit application, Alyssa Richards Memorial Car Show, October 5th, 2024. Questions, comments, concerns?
No, my understanding was that was a very, very nice event the last time they did it.
Hearing none, proceeding forward, we have nomination of Main Street Advisory Board, Keith Reed Jr. They're looking to fill a vacancy on the Main Street Advisory Board, and this is the recommendation that they brought forward. I see no problems with it. Does any questions, comments, concerns from council?
Will that require a vote on
Yeah,
Monday?
it will. A vote on Monday. Hearing none, proceeding forward. Charter discussion, section C 519, removal from office recall. I have been reviewing it, and based on citizen concerns that I have received, people would like an avenue to hold elected officials accountable here in Taneytown. The only thing that this changes is there is already a recall section in Taneytown. The only way to do it, though, is that council first has to censure somebody. There is 2 sentences in that, in the recall paragraph that I'd like to remove, which would be the censure part, to where elected officials could be recalled regardless of censure. You currently need about 20%, you need 20% of the registered voters to do a petition here in Taneytown. That comes out to about around 1,200 signatures. That's quite a bit of signatures to get. An average election for council, for instance, gets about 260 votes. An average election for a mayor, about 800 votes. So you'd have to significantly go above and beyond this to even get to the point of petitioning the elected official to recall. However, this should still be a tool that the citizens can utilize to make sure that their voices are being heard and to make sure that they are accurately being represented instead of dictated down, or to where their representatives are actually held accountable if they are not representing them.
I think that's completely unnecessary. I think it's great the way it is.
So again, it would take 1,200 signatures. That is a lot of signatures you'd have to get. Why? Is there a particular reason why?
That's by design.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So the idea would be to where they'd be able to regardless of censure. Is there a particular reason why not?
I have something I can read.
Sure.
I've gotten a couple emails from people, so I put the thoughts together into one statement. I'll say the first part that somebody sent was, they said that holding elected officials accountable does not mean eliminating them just for having opposing views. So I think that's the first part, and I thought that was important. Having a censor before a recall adds another layer of deliberation and accountability. It prevents a recall effort from being started for frivolous and/or undocumented reasons. Allegations must be vetted in an open public forum with evidence and testimony. It allows the accused party to respond, and it helps to keep any attempt at a recall from using misinformation and lies. Publicly stated reasons can help differentiate warranted recalls from those stemming from political or ideological differences. Recall procedures give citizens an important power, but checks like a council censure serve to avoid misuse against elected officials who have not demonstrably abused their positions or violated the public trust. Reasonable constraints maintain balance between accountability and stability. It's an important safeguard against abuse of the removal process.
I appreciate that. Just to kind of counter on some of that. So the idea that, again, going back to the 1,200 signatures, that is a lot of signatures that somebody would have to get just to put somebody on the recall ballot. Not only that, after that, there's still a vote. The citizens would still have to vote on whether that person is recalled. While I understand that you want the censure to be there, because realistically, let's say there's 3 council members. Let's say they've been up here for 8 to 12 years. Let's say there is stuff that they have done that they want to be held, that people want to see them held accountable for. Well, realistically, those 3 people are not going to vote to censure each other. It's just not, it's not going to happen.
I don't think we need to discuss this anymore. This is outrageous. I mean, it doesn't have any merit whatsoever.
That's what elections are for.
So every 4 years, that's the only time that an elected official should be held accountable?
Yeah. That's what elections are for. If you want to have accountability, then first of all, you kind of have to look in the mirror and be able to accept some accountability yourself.
Well, if I had a mirror to show you, I would, but I don't. But
Let's please be
again,
civil.
yeah. Again, what I will say though is, you seriously think an elected official should only be held accountable every 4 years at the polls? Because here's the
Hey,
thing
we
again,
get public feedback all the time.
do you listen to it?
Do you?
I definitely do.
I think you do. I think what you have
So let
going
me-
on
let me
is
tell
like a
you-
propaganda thing, and I think maybe you should take a step back and stop trying to fire or unseat people who don't agree with what you're doing. Because we are not just speaking for ourselves. We are speaking for the citizens who reach out to us and say, How do we stop this guy? He's out of control.
I
And
have the
we get
exact
those
opposite
emails.
feedback.
Well, I'd love to
What
see.
I will say, I want to go over a conversation that I had with a council member. So I approached them and I told them the idea. The idea is to remove the censure part of it. The first comment that I received back is that's communism. The second comment I received back is that's mob rule. The third comment I received back was, well, you're just going to rile people up to remove council members. That's not true. There's 1,200 signatures you have to get. I'm sorry, but if that is more than anybody up here has been elected with, even me, the rest of the council members who've been elected with 250 votes, that is more than anybody has been elected with. Not only that, there's then a recall after that. And then to go back, my concern is that I was told, so Chris, we're hearing on our end from the bedrock community of Taneytown that they want to see you removed. What is the bedrock community of Taneytown? We're up here to serve all residents of Taneytown, whether you've lived here 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 year. And again,
That part. You keep forgetting that part.
keep forgetting, just last meeting, you criticized me on not being here long enough to be up here serving.
If so many people want him out, why not put this in?
You know,
Yeah, let's,
There'll be comment period later.
seriously, why not put it in and let them hold me accountable then? And that's the thing, is that any elected official will be able to be held accountable with this. If there's 1,200 signatures that want it,
That will, actually, whoever said it was mob rule is right. Because apparently, all you have to do is go door to door to get people riled up over things that you make up.
imagine talking with your constituents. That is a new concept to you all, I understand that.
Look, you rule through Facebook, and I get it. That's how you do it. You go on Facebook and you told all these people that the council was not being transparent, but trust me, elect me, and I'll tell you everything you need to know. People should have a personal responsibility to learn the stuff themselves, not be told what they should think.
Just at the last
not-
meeting, you talked about how you didn't learn charter and code because you had a life. That's actually what you stated at the last meeting.
we are wasting time.
I know.
We're not wasting time. This is a conversation that needs to happen.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I will propose
I
it
think
regardless.
Chris has a comment.
Councilmember Tillman?
Excuse me, I was choking my water there a second ago, but, I believe what we don't want is to be able to recall officials because somebody doesn't like them or because they don't agree necessarily with their politics, which is why the censure provision is there. I am not willing at this time to entertain removing the censure provision. I would entertain possibly reducing the threshold numbers. But you can't just simply turn this over to the public because they don't like what somebody said. Recall is a excuse me, sorry about that, should be, sorry, should be a last measure.
It's a very costly process too, by the way.
Yeah.
At the actual recall.
Well, I
point,
mean, you
once-
have to
once
have.
1,200 signatures
Well,
have
then
been
you have to
gathered.
have an election. I mean.
Once 1,200 signatures have been collected, and that's the thing is that, yes, like,
Well, and I've said I'm willing to entertain a
reducing,
a
but that's the thing is,
threshold, but-
why should 4 people or 5 people, why should 5 people decide if a council member or a mayor is accurately representing the citizens, but 1,200 people can't decide that? Why is that power only left to 5 people instead of allowing the
Why
residents to
don't
decide that?
1,200 people vote?
I couldn't tell you, but why, if
can tell
1,200 people
I
don't
can tell
vote,
you.
why are you scared of 1,200 people being able to recall or put somebody to recall? If you believe that 1,200, you're not gonna get 1,200, then why are you guys scared? Just implement it. You talked about holding me accountable at the last meeting. That's fine, implement it. Let people petition me if they want to petition me. If they truly believe that I'm not serving in their best interest, let them petition
That
me.
day may come, but right now, everything.
And that's the problem is,
working
it
fine.
only comes
It really
if you all do a censure.
You can't, never mind. I'm not gonna explain it.
Chris, I mean, to answer your point,
I
if
really understand that.
if we wanted to, we would censure you now for something we would make up.
I mean, I've been threatened with it, yeah.
But, again, that requires public statements from
And I can see why you wouldn't want me to make those public statements. So, again, the problem is why does a group of elected officials fear their constituents having the power to put them to recall? And again, it isn't, even if you get the 1,200 signatures, there is still a recall election. And not only that, the cost of the city doesn't even happen until 1,200 signatures have been gathered. That is a lot of signatures. Again, I think you could combine just about all of us up here and you still aren't at 1,200. No elected official should be scared of being held accountable by their constituents, especially if it requires 1,200.
But that's why you have an election process. And
Every 4 years. So what you do is you get up here and you form an aristocracy, basically of aristocrats who believe they've been elected for 4 years to lead their city. To lead their city in a way that no matter what the citizens say, it doesn't matter because they believe they know what's right. They believe they're more intelligent than the average citizen. They believe they know charter and code more than the average citizen, which has been disproven time and time again up here over the past 6
Chris,
months.
Here, I will put this out to you then. Citizens can petition to make changes to charter, can they not?
They can.
If you can get 1,200 signatures and pass a charter amendment by election, have at it.
So you'd accept a charter amendment of 1,200 signatures, but you wouldn't just allow citizens to recall.
Because then you would have the charter changed by will of the people.
Well,
Not
so here's what you guys could do. You could make the change, right? And if the will of the people is that there shouldn't be a recall, then they can also petition against it. But I guarantee you, more likely than not, the residents of Taneytown want to be able to hold their elected officials accountable. And it's not just one person messaging me about this. It's not two people. It is a lot of people asking, how do we hold the people up here accountable?
Can
For
we
things
move
that you've
on
made
to the
up.
public
Being said-
comment? You don't
How is
agree with
any
us.
elected
We don't
official in
agree
the
with
country
you.
held
Let's
accountable?
move to the public comment.
This is.
That's fine. I will still look.
Off the
I will
wall.
still look to bring it forward for introduction. Moving to public comment. Any additional comments, questions, or concerns from council?
Not at this time.
And one thing I will say is everything that I've heard whenever it comes to transparency and stuff like that, what I hear from council isn't why something has happened in town. It's how did the residents find out that we were doing this in the background of the town?
That's a lie.
That's a what?
That's a lie. Nothing is done in secret without people being able to
At least
burn.
not
It
from
happens in
council
the meetings.
standpoint.
That's true. I mean, there's other things going on.
Oh, here it is.
From the mayor's standpoint, there's a lot of things done in secret.
So, just to touch on something, I know that there's this email chain that you guys have been really, really mad about, right? Because people found out, well, some people found out that there's an email chain. It's the whole point of this investigation that you tried to start, right? In this email chain, actually, 3 members of council go into a separate part of the email chain. In this separate email chain, they are responding back and forth within minutes of each other. That in itself, even through email communication between 3 members of council, is a violation of Open Meetings Act.
No,
it is not.
it's not.
For email, over the span of a couple of minutes and back and forth messages over something
Have
that
you
they believe
taken
is
the
in.
open meetings class yet?
Yeah, that is not, discussions among council members can happen over the entire board of the council if it wishes. What would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act is if decisions are made over email without public knowledge or introduction. Just 3 council members, emailing back and forth does not constitute a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Of trying to come to a decision of whether to stop a certificate? That is what is,
It was not a discussion about whether or not to stop a certificate. It was questioning the intent behind it and how other employees would see that.
so just to read off a part of this. It seems frivolous, but I think stopping it at this point may be more harm than good from a PR perspective. There are bigger fish to fry at the
That was
Taneytown
that
Police
was an
Department.
opinion that somebody had. See, you're very good at manipulating and turning things to your agenda. But I don't think that you really understand. The people up here are still citizens of this town and are allowed to have opinions about things. They're allowed to have conversations.
Not when they're debating
made a
topics between
decision.
3 council members. That is a quorum.
No, a quorum is if 3 council members got together and said, here's how we're gonna vote. Here's what we're gonna do about this situation.
So the idea of whether you guys are debating whether to stop something or not.
No, that comment was made simply as an afterthought. Well, it's going to go through no matter what anybody else thinks. So you took it out of context and read it, and that is not what the conversation was about. And that wasn't even my comment, but I can guarantee that you're
Well,
taking it out of
Your next
context.
comment was, this has gotten out of control. I believe there's going to be a backlash, and I want to make sure this doesn't come back to us. That's actually your next email follow-up to that.
That's right. And can I tell you what the backlash was? All the other employees saying, what the hell?
Actually, so here's what you did. 2 council members then took to the phone and called another employee of the city, trying to get them to launch a complaint about whether this certificate should have been transpired. That
Well, I
employee,
don't know anything about
that
that.
employee then called the other employee who was receiving the certificate and said, hey, I don't know why they're calling me, trying to get me to stop from getting the certificate.
I don't know anything about that.
You don't know anything about that.
I don't. I don't know
Okay.
what you're talking about.
About calling a city employee, trying to rile them up about a certificate. And then,
No. I think you've been misled.
okay. That's fine. I'll bring what I can for the next meeting.
It seems like a waste of time.
It seems, yeah, I bet it does.
Says the guy who doesn't want the investigation to happen.
Have the investigation. The problem is you have nothing to investigate. You haven't brought anything forward.
You got rid of our lawyer.
Yeah, I got rid of the lawyer.
He's the one that said that the information. Okay.
He's
never
he's
mind.
also the same guy that I sent this email chain to, that there was retaliation happening against a city employee, and him responded back, don't worry about it, just work better with council. And then after
Wouldn't
that,
that be nice?
and then after that, not only did that happen after that, but after that, we actually received a tort claim regarding harassment and discrimination by elected officials.
Jim, is this something that needs to be discussed in an open session? I don't want any legal.
It really
I don't want
really
any legal
should be.
information to come out that will get the city in trouble.
I think we're heading down a dangerous path.
Yes.
We have no,
I know we are for some people up here.
no legal direction.
I would love for that all to be able to come out, but it's
Oh,
not.
I'd
going
love
to.
for it too. I asked you to do it. Because I'm going to tell you, there's not just one there's not just one retaliation tort claim. There's 2.
Let me make sure you heard what he just said.
I would strongly advise that no one speak about an ongoing legal matter.
Fair enough. Any additional comments, questions, or concerns?
No.
Oh, sorry, I did want to touch on one point. You talked about how I came in here trying to fire city employees. I fired one city employee, and that was the city attorney, who, in my belief, was up here trying to protect council members from being held accountable for retaliation against city employees. In the time that I've been up here, three city employees, council members come to me trying to fire 3 city employees. 2 of those, I believe, based on retaliation. And just to,
I'm sorry.
I won't go too much further into it. But again, if people are asking, if they're up here accusing me of being the one firing city employees, I've fired 1 as the city attorney. They've actually asked me to fire 3 since I've been here, and with no merit claim to any of it. But
I will say this regarding the firing of the city attorney. You and I had discussed this, and we talked about several points where I agreed that there was some merit to looking to change the city attorney based on,
him living in Florida.
I don't know his living arrangements,
I'll
but I
say
do, but
the-
I will say this, he has occasionally been unavailable. He did miss a council meeting, which he is not supposed to do. He did provide a particular opinion that turned out to be fairly wrong. You mentioned that you would like to have the resources of a larger firm. And it would be hard to disagree with those things. However, that's not the reason you stated for firing the city attorney. You made the firing of the city attorney about council and not about the city attorney.
Actually, if I remember correctly, the number 1 reason I fired him was he sat up here and basically told me that is how we've always done it in regards to violating the code and charter. And that he even said it through.
That is a mischaracterization of what he said.
Maybe we're not attending the same meetings. I'm not too sure. But that is what he said at the meeting. That is actually, that's what he said through email too. So I don't know.
It is a mischaracterization of what he said, and you can,
That's being polite.
you know,
Well, again, I will say the last invoice we sent to him was to Florida. So, I mean,
not arguing that.
I know, I'm just telling you. I mean, there were plenty of reasons to fire the city attorney, and I've been discussing it since May, and I've been looking into it since May. I've been looking at actions that he's conducted since May, and city staff can tell you that. But as was demonstrated at the last meeting, council members found out that I was looking at the city attorney and some actions that he had taken, some in relation to the council, and decided they were going to try to preemptively block that before I had concrete back that I could in fact fire the city attorney. But,
It fixed us.
okay. Additional comments, questions, or concerns regarding the charter discussion, section C-519, removal from office recall? Hearing none, proceeding forward to the council consensus. I need a council consensus on attorney nomination, whether council is actually going to consider a nomination.
I would tell you that it's based on the nomination. We
Yep,
can't.
that's all I need, is that you will,
Be based on the cost, the qualifications, and 1,000 other things. I mean, we're not just gonna give you a blank check to go.
I'm not looking,
hire an
I'm not looking
attorney.
for a blank check. I just need to know that if I bring forward a nomination, you will consider it,
You've
because
demonstrated in the past that monetary restrictions don't much matter.
you had to approve it. You had to vote on it.
Well, that's exactly right.
Did
So
I
if you
twist your arm to
find
vote on
somebody
it?
that's comparably placed with our prior attorney, and I'll look at it.
That's fine. That's all I want to hear, because what I had been told previously was that council would not consider any nomination that I brought forward for the city attorney, and that was told to me by a council member last week. So I want to make sure before we're using any more resources to find a city attorney, that council will indeed at least judge a city attorney based on their merits if I bring one forward.
I think the best course of action would be to contact our former city attorney, tell him you made a mistake and you'd like him to come back.
Yeah, I'll send my mail down to Florida. It's going to take a couple days for him to get it since he doesn't live locally anymore. But okay, I do need that consensus. If I bring forward a candidate, you guys will consider it. That's all I'm asking here, is that you will at least consider it.
We will consider a lot of things, but I would say we would have to consider it because obviously right now, things are being delayed because we do not have legal representation.
Like I said, all I'm asking is to consider it.
We can't continue like this.
Okay, proceeding forward to public comment pertaining to agenda items. Would anybody from the public like to come and comment pertaining to agenda items? Yes.
Okay, so most of you know me. Lived here a
Still
long
state your
time.
name anyway.
Lisa Crawford. Lived in town about 20-some years. Have had good relationships, bad relations, and a bunch of respect for just about everybody in this room. That said, what I see going on right now is very, very sad. By this point, my other boys had been to city council meetings and seen them. I don't necessarily want my 10-year-old to see the disrespect all of you continuously show each other. It's sad, and it's unprofessional, quite frankly. And that's not coming from just me. That is coming from a multitude of people in town who do go on and watch the videos. And that's, like I said, I'm bringing this to you from a multitude of people. One of the things, I'm really glad that it was brought up about the money as far as, some things could the fees be lessened, because, and I brought this up before a while back at council, or at least twice, there seems to be an unfair advantage, especially for people who just want to do something small on their property versus people who can afford attorneys and they're doing, the bigger things. There seems to be a big disadvantage there. So I'm very glad that that was recommended. As far as the censure and the 1,200 votes, the thing of it is, there was a petition that I was involved in. And I will tell you, and many of you have met, well, have met, especially my two older boys. Connor Crawford was crossed off that list, and he should not have been. He signed that petition, and that petition was gone through and picked through by everybody, because you know what? Y'all didn't like the petition. And his name shouldn't have been crossed off. He lived here in town. He could still come and vote when he wanted, but yet his name was crossed off that petition. Other people's names on that petition, if you couldn't read it correctly, if you couldn't do this, well, you know what? If a doctor signed it, you wouldn't be able to read his name either. I understand the need to go through and verify, but the way that was picked apart was not correct. Because Connor's lived here all his life, he's of voting age, and he signed the petition. And he's not the only one. He's just the easiest example for me to give to y'all. So, you know, and the number and amount of signatures that we needed for that was insane, and it kept changing, and the date kept changing. That's not fair to the citizens. And if you say you're listening to the citizens, this is one of the reasons why Chris got elected, because some have come forward and said these things, and like I had said previously, and I'm even a little bit worried about a backlash about what I'm saying tonight. We have come forward, and the last time, or I'd say 2 times ago, I don't show up a lot, but I said, I don't know, you know, if anybody will even hear me when I come up here. And I did say that, and that was before Chris was elected. And many other people, and again, it's not just me. You can want to say it's just me, it's not. And a lot of you have put a lot of effort and time into this town, and I have a lot of respect for that. A lot of respect for that. But there's also some changes that honestly need to be looked at. And I will tell you, the city attorney, the way it went down, it could have been done better, quite honestly. It could have and should have done better. However, did he need to go? Yeah, he did. He needed to go. He doesn't live here. It cost us more money to have him. And also, the thing of it is, he's been here so long, and the division between you guys, he has certain relationships with other people that he doesn't. It should be fair and even between all of you, the relationship with whatever attorney you have. So when you go looking for an attorney and Chris has a proposal, you know, maybe he shouldn't be the only one that has it. Maybe there should be a couple people that come forward, even people in the city office or even from other districts that have recommendations, or you guys, not just one person coming with another attorney. Maybe that will help you all instead of just one person presenting something to you. Just a recommendation or a thought, because there's also many experienced people in Westminster and Union Bridge and everywhere else that might have some good recommendations. I don't think we should have an attorney that doesn't live in our state. That's more if we have to fly him in. And, you know, there was a lawsuit, the Frazier lawsuit. How long ago was the Frazier lawsuit? And not many people know the dollar amount. I know about the dollar amount that lawsuit cost this town. That could have gone to our water, but it didn't. We do not want to have so many closed meetings and such arguments amongst ourselves that we end up with another lawsuit that costs the people of this town more money. And that goes for everybody here. And arguing, you know, it doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't. And no, you know, we don't always feel heard. We really don't. And that petition is, I guess, my best example, because my son grew up here and was crossed off of it. And he's not the only one. So, and I know when that petition was put forth, and honestly, we didn't expect it to fix things. We just wanted to delay it to reconsider as far as the property and how many would be packed in one small lot and how it would affect the environment. It was just really more to delay it. And we were not allowed to have that time. I'm sorry, is there something?
Please show respect to the
Yes,
person
please.
speaking.
Well, we do have a limit.
Usually we have a 3-minute.
Usually we have a 3-minute limit. And
I know
in this,
council members very
in
much
this
go over
instant,
that 3 limit.
Chris, please. In this instance, I'm certainly willing to be generous with the time. And, you know, it did seem that Lisa was done. So I think we're about done. I would like one thing to say.
It's not a back and forth.
Well,
Also,
I would like
just
to.
if we're talking about limits and stuff like that, it's not a back and forth. I will say again, the snickering and the smiles and stuff like that when somebody's publicly speaking is disgusting.
It's interesting.
Well, I also know that these people, if they have something to say, they've known me long enough, they can tell me. You know, and they know I'm going to tell them, because I've lived here long enough to say this, and I do worry about backlash. And honestly, 3 minutes, with all that's going on, it's not very long. I'll conclude, because obviously my time is up, but that's really not a long time considering the list that's on here tonight and considering the back and forth. So you might want to think about amending the limits, especially when,
We
There's just
usually
one.
just ignore them. I mean, we don't hold anybody at 3 minutes.
oh, okay. Well, actually, I was here one time, and I was very much, you were not here then. And neither was Chris, it was somebody else, that I was very much held to those limits. I only have one other thing, and I'll get out of your way, okay? That has to do with the traffic that was mentioned. And I mentioned it at a business breakfast a while back. You know, still in really early in the morning, you know, the cops pull people in, they're short-staffed right now, so might not hit at the moment, but the traffic is, I can't tell you how many times, and I've lived here long enough, I have not been woken up so many times by, and a lot of it's inexperienced drivers that are coming through again, because a lot of truck drivers have quit, but people are pulled over in front and near my house all the time that are regular vehicles. I don't see big trucks being pulled over or followed for jake braking. And my late husband was a truck driver, so I don't want to see them lose their jobs. I do think they're not being looked at when they're racing through town, because one blew by me so fast, and I couldn't sleep, and I was out really early in the morning. It was about 4 a.m. Went by my house so fast, it wasn't even funny. And then the jake braking at the light. But I don't see any cops, and I have not ever. But it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. So that's
I
it.
agree completely with that.
Thank you.
Chris probably does too.
So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment pertaining to agenda items? Yep.
Harry Mead, 102 Baumgartner. I had 3 different items. First, do we know what times the traffic study was taken?
They had cameras up at the intersection for, I'm not sure if it was a couple weeks. I'm not sure how long they collected data, but I think it
Yeah,
was 24 hours.
The thing that jogs me is the fact that depending upon which way GPS has me coming home that day, traffic is regularly backed up to the circle or backed up past Evapco and past the Zig on 194. So they need to do something. I'm not sure if left turn light does it or what, but something needs to happen in there. The chickens. I asked the planning commission this, and it wasn't really the place for it at that point, but the biggest question is why the complexity of the ordinance itself? You're taking it, and someone has to touch government 4 times now with this ordinance in order to have a couple of chickens in the backyard. They have to tie up the inspector for a building. They've also, with this, on the face of it, you've ruled out a large chunk of the houses in Taneytown anyway, with the sizing and the setbacks and everything else that are in there. The backyards aren't even big enough for this, for what has been proposed there. So it just seems that this could be done a lot more simply and with a lot less government touches. Because realistically, how many people are going to have chickens? And lastly, on the recall thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it straight that if the people have a problem with a member of council, we need council to then vote against the member of council to then be able to do some kind of a recall. That seems like that's completely insulated and protected. And that would be the reason for having something like what's been proposed, because we're basically asking council to patrol themselves.
It's been done in the past.
But I'm just, there's a lot of things that this is how we've done them, but
That's not what I said.
I know,
I
but
said someone should be recalled for malfeasance. If a councilman violates ethics, violates charter, violates other precedents that harms the city, then it's our responsibility as elected officials to call them to task. And at that point, they would be censored. In fact, I know of a councilman that was censored twice. The third time they were censored, they're removed from office without any recall.
however, for something aside from that, say council members not representing citizenry,
It has to be very serious to receive a censure. It has to be something that is illegal, against the public interest, or detrimental to the greatest majority of the people in town. It's not something that can be taken lightly.
and then
that's-
the way
that's
that
the
it's
whole purpose
proposed
of the
is not,
censor part.
the way that it's being proposed is not being taken lightly. You have to get more votes than everybody else ever gets.
And the censure still remains. I mean, you could still censure
You
people.
could still censure someone, but it's two different items. It's two different
Part of the reason the
subjects.
threshold is as high as it is because we have, this is a representative form of government. This is not a popular form, popular vote plebiscite form
And
of government.
I'm not here to talk about lowering that. I think it should be a high threshold for recall. But it should be a tool as yet another check that the people can use instead of having to wait for multiple years.
Appreciate it, thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Ron Shelton, 135 East Baltimore. This is on YouTube, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I certainly hope that the voting viewers of Taneytown paid attention to how the First Lady was respected by the first two members. As far as the recall stuff goes, I tend to agree with Councilmember Tillman. I think that, I believe it's a good idea. I support you as far as it needs to be in place. As far as, this is how things have been done in the past, there's a lot of things that was done a certain way in the past that have changed in the future. We aren't who we used to be. We moved into the future on a lot of things. I think one thing that we should look at is if everybody's strong point against it is that we're looking at it as a recall to have them removed, maybe we look at it as a recall to have them censored. And it count as a censor against them towards the 3 strikes you're out, instead of saying, hey, the community has spoken and you're out of here, and look at it as, okay, we're censoring you, and if you get 2 more censors, you're gone. I think a petition needs to be done. I think asking for 1,200 signatures is a bit lofty. I think maybe we look at the last 5 elections and come up with an average voter count from the last 5 elections and think about what the number is from that and see what we could come up with as far as a more realistic number of signatures. And as far as she was saying with signatures being crossed off because they were unreadable or whatever, go with a signature and a printed name beside it. And have whoever's collecting the signatures verify the name at that time.
I have the section on petitions open on my tablet right now. And just so for everyone's information, following information printed or typed in the spaces provided, the signer's name as it was signed. So that needs to be printed or typed on the form. So the signer's address and the date of the signing. One of the other issues, and speaks to Lisa's point about her son, as it appears on the city's voter registration records, if he was not a registered voter at the time of the signature, then the signature does not count. Just because he was old enough and a resident of the city doesn't mean he was necessarily on the voter roll. And I don't know, I don't know, I'm just saying that may have been what was the disqualification on that. But I do know, I'm just reading this for everyone's,
Real quick, as far as the signature goes, a lot of our kids are also not, they're coming out of school and they can't write their name in cursive, depending on the teachers that they get. Just as a side note, as far as how things should be done, our kids should be able to sign their name, but as far as the signature versus the printing versus reading, I have my one older son can write in cursive because he had a teacher that pushed it. My other son cannot write legibly or barely at all.
Could the speaker in the gallery please come to the podium?
I'm sorry. Just on what he said as far as the way things always have been, and some things are good that have always been, but signatures are changing because cursive is not being taught in school. It's not. My youngest son, I'm working personally with cursive. My two older sons, my one that's disabled, he can sign wonderfully. Connor, who signed that petition, he can't sign his name legibly. It's sad. And he's even embarrassed about it, but they're not being taught. They don't have time to teach it in school these days, just as,
well, I can tell you that if you tried to read my signature, you wouldn't be able to read it either.
and
so.
most doctors,
But-
yeah.
Most signatures
But
is whatever you
most
put down on
signatures
the
are about
paper.
the same way, but they're, whatever the means is that he would have signed his driver's license, for example, the signature is required there. And so as long as it reasonably matched that would be what would count. It doesn't matter whether it's in cursive or not, whatever that person's signature is what that person's signature is. So as long as there's a signature of record, but if there is not a signature of record, then there's no way to verify. And again, that would become a disqualifying item. Just to let you know.
I also wanted to add what she was saying about the trucks, and it's not just the big truck drivers. There's a lot of people running around here with the jacked up, diesel pickup trucks that are just being obnoxious in and around town. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were having issues with no chief, and police patrol wasn't really what it should have been. I'm hoping that now that we have a new chief, then maybe things will get picked up and more common traffic occurrences will be looked at a little more regularly than they weren't getting looked at before. I think a lot of the lower end stuff was getting Marilyn Mosby there for a while, wasn't being bothered with. And as a last statement, and I mean this with all due respect, but you guys are acting like children. It's plain and simple. This side of the table and this side of the table cannot get along, and it's not good for the town. And you guys have just got to get it together. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda items from the floor?
Ava Miller, 107 Trevanion Road, Taneytown. I told myself I wasn't going to get up here, but this is a total disgrace to this town. From the time the mayor was running for office, we have a council member up here talking about Facebook, but she has on Facebook calling names, calling him a communist and rolling her eyes and laughing as I'm speaking up here as well. And the day he was swearing in 2 council members, on the day he took office, rolling eyes and talking to another member of council, if that's not disrespect, it started way before this mayor came in office. And if any of y'all were smart up here, you'd be censoring that council person. We shouldn't have to go around getting signatures because this is a disgrace. You have made this whole town a mockery. what happened the last 2 meetings? Yeah, roll your eyes, look the other way, smile. I don't really care. I'm a citizen of this town, and I have a right to speak as anyone else.
You got one sitting right beside her playing on her phone.
Exactly. This is so disrespectful. So disrespectful. We are citizens. Yeah, smile at me. I don't really care. Smile. Why don't you listen to the people that's up here talking? And you talk about Facebook, laugh all you want. You talk about Facebook, but you're on there yourself. This family was called hillbillies. You are a disgrace. Oh, yeah. Okay, whatever. Okay. He's called a communist. Come on. I understand. And so I don't know how long y'all been out of the workforce or if you are still in the workforce, but anywhere else, this would be considered a hostile workplace. Y'all need some training. Do you not consider this a job? Do you guys get paid for this? Yes, right? So this is a hostile workplace.
Ma'am, you gotta sit down. Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda items?
Let me give you guys a win, okay? Talking about the traffic issues. Mark Stevenson, 9 York Street, downtown resident. Yeah, traffic is a problem. It's more of a problem now and will continue to be because that bypass never got on the agenda for years and years and years. I know I'm not going to get into the debate about is it going to kill this or kill that. No, the core of your town is dead, okay? This is the liveliest thing we have going on downtown right now. But I will say this. Shortly after the new council was put in and the new mayor was put in, a relationship was reestablished with State Highway, a productive one that in very short order got the square, which may not be important to people who don't spend time down here, but people who live here, we got a 5-second delay on that light, where all 4 lights are red for 5 seconds to give the pedestrian ample time to get across. That's a win, okay? That's a win. I also understand that in the future, when State Highway has already planned projects for the square, there's going to be further pedestrian safety measures put in place during that project. Another win. So some things are working. Some things are working. What I would say about the censure issue. The censure is a tool at every level of elected office, from city councils to Congress. It is put in place as a tool so people cannot use that recall as a retaliatory measure, okay? We've seen it play out in Congress recently, both sides of the aisle, people getting censured, people, losing committee assignments, things like that. The reason why that is put in place is because it is representative, okay? It is not a majority rule, okay? I mean, it is the way that it's divided up with how many representatives, but my point is it's not a popular vote, to Mr. Tillman's point, all right? If we ran America by popular vote, who knows where the hell we'd be right now? And it's already bad enough, okay? Now, I'm not gonna make any comment about personalities. I'm not gonna make any comment about who said this and who said that. What I'm gonna say to you is that this town is growing, and it's growing with more people moving in than probably lived here 10 years ago or from here their whole life, okay? That means there's more diversity coming, there's more financially, there's more money coming in, but the expectations that people who move from outside of Taneytown, like myself, okay, and I'm from a small town on the Eastern Shore, okay? I know what you guys used to have here, okay? Which is part of the reason why we're here. But my expectations as a citizen and as somebody who's putting investment in this town, I need you guys to at least be moving things forward. I don't care whether you like each other or not, but we need to move the town forward. Personalities, I don't care. Look, a lot of people in this town, a lot of people in this room don't care for me. because of my style and because I say what I need to say. But I get things done. And that's what I expect of you guys, all right? I know there's gonna be stuff, all right? We all know that, all right? But we gotta get the town moving forward. Citizens do deserve better, to your point, Mayor, from everybody, and ourselves as well, all right? You can't sit home on Facebook. I mean, certainly if you can't be here, that's one thing. But if people don't get involved, then they shouldn't complain. But it doesn't mean they still don't have a voice. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda items? Hearing none.
Close the hearing on the.
Yep. I'm going to now ask one more time for the public hearing regarding ordinance 09-2023 backyard chickens. Any additional comments on this before I close the public hearing? Hearing none, I'm closing the public hearing regarding backyard chickens. I'm now looking for a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Looking for a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Guys have it, we are adjourned.